Hey, Foot Clan. Today's show is brought to you by FantasyJocks.com. Look, we love these guys. They are the place to go for your live draft boards. That is the most exciting day of the year, so you got to get your live draft board at FantasyJocks.com. And if you have a trophy or you need a trophy, so if you need engraving on your trophy or you want to get a brand new one, or better yet, what Jason has right here, a fantasy championship belt.
Oh, yeah.
You can get it at FantasyJocks.com, and they have a special deal for our listeners. You just go to FantasyJocks.com, type in the promo code BALLERS, and get your own fantasy championship belt or draft board. Very cool.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, my goodness. Jason is holding up.
Should we have him change that to Jason the Champion more?
Where? In the intro? Nope.
No. The championship belt should do for me.
I feel like
you already took one of those home, and you have another one on your shoulder.
You need to do this whole show as Macho Man.
Ooh,
There's a saying that they have in the NFL that the experienced veterans say, and they say, act like you've been there before.
That's what boring people say.
Yeah, and then there's some people that just want to flaunt it around.
Yeah,
and bring
well, Jason's
champion belts,
wearing a championship belt today.
which I did get from Fantasy Jocks.
Yes, you did.
That's something that like people who cannot dance say.
I couldn't. I'll be honest with you. I was familiar with Fantasy Jocks before they ever sponsored the show, and I couldn't appreciate the belt until I saw it with my eyeballs. Till it arrived, it is so big.
It's
and
heavy.
like heavy and metal and amazing.
It is. I wear it around my house. I have my wife sew large belt loops on all my pants so that I can just wear this as a normal belt.
All right, let's get into it, guys. The Fantasy Footballers Podcast back again, Tuesday, May 31st, 2016. Oh, it is a fun time of year. We are almost into June.
We're
June 1st.
Getting there.
June 1st is tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Tuesday. And tomorrow we've got the draft kit.
Yeah, if you're listening today, this is the last day that you can pre-order and save on the Ultimate Draft Kit.
Yeah, so it comes out tomorrow, which is exciting. And the one question we've had a lot, and I think it's my own fault for not putting it on the website better, is will this thing update? People are afraid they're going to get the draft kit and then it's just going to be stagnant for no, it's going to update.
This is not 1990.
Yeah. You can go buy a magazine if you want 1990, but we're going to update it all of the time. Today's show, we've got a fun one. It's basically dubbed Explain Yourself.
Explain yourself.
Exactly. I didn't say it like that because you can only do that. But explain yourself. There are some inconsistencies in our rankings, which is normal and good, right?
I would say
we're different people.
Or like disagreements, not an inconsistency.
You are right. That it is a difference of opinion.
Correct.
And so we're going to put each other on the spot for a couple of guys in our rankings and make each other explain yourself. All right? Are you prepared?
I am, except now all I can think about is express yourself.
Really? Because, see, what I think of is I go to
express yourself.
No, not that. I go to treat yourself.
Oh,
you don't know treat
no,
yourself.
I don't know treat yourself.
Should I know that?
Oh, you're not there yet, are you?
No, I am. The treat yourself part of Parks and Recreation.
Yes, sir.
That
Treat
was
yourself.
Yeah, that was really fun.
I'm not there.
I forgot. All right, what else is going on? As if that wasn't enough, we have the podcast awards, and I cannot express this enough. I am blown away with the listeners in the Foot Clan. The response, the amount of people voting, I am genuinely shocked, humbled, amazed. It is so rewarding to have so many listeners that enjoy this show, because what's happening is people are going to podcastawards.com and they're voting for us. And then they're sending their screenshot on Twitter with the hashtag FootclanVote, like you're supposed to do, and that gets you.
They're setting timers on their phone so they can do it every day.
But what has been cool is a lot of people post those images, and then they're like, "Thank you for making my job 10 times better," or "Thank you for making my commute or my bike ride or my lawn mowing time that much more fun." And it's super rewarding, and we can't thank you enough for supporting this show.
When you do post it, if you're not aware, use the hashtag FootclanVote when you say that you have voted and show us that you do, because we are giving away a signed Le'Veon Bell jersey to somebody at random.
Reluctantly, because I tried to keep it.
Yeah, that is true. And our first spot in the 2016 Listener League. Big deals.
Yeah.
Also, if you didn't know, make sure you actually click the confirm the vote on the email. Otherwise, you didn't vote.
Yep. So, and you can vote every day for the next 2 weeks, basically, until June 12th.
For Best Sports and People's Choice.
That's
we
right.
are in both categories.
2 times.
2 times. So, also check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can visit us on Twitter at the FFBallers. We love interacting on Twitter, on YouTube, on the Fantasy Sports Network, on Facebook, etc., etc. There's so many places to be, and we're at all of them. So, I think I'm going to jump right into the news, guys, because I want to get to this Explain Yourself section. Everybody okay with that? Any
sounds good.
other headline news?
Let's hear what the headline news is.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, I thought I kind of meant like in your lives. You know, if there's anything going on in your lives that you needed to share.
Not more important than this hot Jets news.
I also thought Jason was going to take the belt off and set it on the ground after the intro.
Oh, no.
But he has put it on like a belt holding up his pants.
It got tighter.
This will stay here for life.
I would doubt that from anybody but you will probably do that. All right, let's talk about the guy I knew was going to sign, that is probably going to sign, that might sign. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He still has not signed.
I know, but there are reports that the Jets have offered him a $24 million deal over 3 years, which I personally think isn't that bad. Mike thinks it's an insult.
Yes.
Jason, I think, agrees with me.
I'm in the middle. I think it should be like a $12 million, $8 million, $8 million. I don't have a problem with the Jets saying, look, we'll give you 1 year of starter money. You're old. Then take backup money. But at the same time, he's probably going to lead them to be a good team if he resigns.
He's
a big deal to this team.
Yes, and he's a big deal to fantasy potentially.
When I look at the Jets, I think, look, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, they are a playoff contender. Without him,
they're not.
I don't think they're even that good. And is this really what the world has come to, where a team is changed so much by Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. Yes, because
Right.
you have all the pieces around him. You have Decker, you have Marshall, you have a good defense, you have a good coach. You have a lot of the situations that were in Arizona. And when Carson Palmer went down, the world was over. And it will be over with Geno Smith. And it will be over for Decker and Marshall from a consistency standpoint.
Fitzpatrick,
but don't worry, he's coming back.
He's not that old. I mean, he'll be turning 34 this year. That is not old to offer a man who threw for almost 4,000 yards and 31 touchdowns, and you came within half a game of the playoffs, to offer him starter money, and not even great starter money, for 1 year, and then say, okay, you'll probably be our backup. That, to me, is extremely insulting, and I would not accept that deal if I were Ryan Fitzpatrick either.
So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about Jameis Winston. He is climbing up many a draft board.
Getting svelte.
And he's shed 18 pounds.
Getting svelte.
Says he wants to avoid his sophomore slump. Jameis Winston, where is he right now on all of our rankings?
I
you guys have that up there?
I believe he's a quarterback 1 for me. I am very.
A quarterback what?
I'm playing injured
One.
today, man. I don't know if you can hear it in the voice. It's pretty raspy. It's going out on me. I'm doing my best over
so
here.
I got him at 16. Jason has him at 11. Mike has him at 10.
Yes, Jason.
What? I've been a Winston believer this entire offseason. I think that when you've got a guy who did what he did in his rookie year, with the problems he had with his weapons, with Vincent Jackson going down, Austin Seferian-Jenkins going down, and now you take a step forward into an offseason program where you see, oh, he is dedicated and he's working on his craft. He cares about his body. The offensive coordinator now has taken over the head coaching role. It just seems like some things are lined up for him to at least not regress and maybe take a small step forward. If he takes a small step forward, he should be near, the low-end quarterback 1.
I will say that I think his situation is very similar to Mariota's. People might not agree, but I think it is.
Yeah, I would strongly disagree.
That is fine. And what I mean by that is this, and maybe you'll agree with this small part of my argument, is that both teams could be very run-dependent. They could both lean on the run a lot. I'm curious to see if Winston has somebody to throw to other than Mike Evans. That's a question that needs to be answered. Mariota, how often are they going to let these guys throw the ball? That's the question for me. That's why they're ranked pretty close in my rankings. I think that they're both in a situation where if the training wheels came off, if they became passing offenses, which I think I agree with you. Winston has a higher probability of that because of Dirk Cutter. But that's how I see those. And speaking of the Titans, the report right now out of Titans camp is that DeMarco Murray is going to handle the majority of the carries. They obviously, they drafted Derrick Henry. Do you agree with this? Do you think Murray will be a volume play?
Yes, I do. I am, as time moves on, I'm rising more on Murray from a value standpoint. I don't necessarily believe that he's going to be anywhere close to a running back one, but we saw it with Jeremy Hill. We've seen it with just bad guys in bad situations on offenses that are not putting up a lot of points. If they're a running back that's going to get 225 carries or so, they're going to score touchdowns, and they will be valuable for fantasy. I think the big difference of opinion for fantasy right now is, will he get around the 225 or will he barely make it to 200, which doesn't sound like a huge difference, but overall for fantasy, that's a pretty big gap right there.
Let me throw this out there. There are two of us that have Matt Jones ranked ahead of DeMarco Murray as of today.
Nice. I assume
I
that I am
certainly
one
hope
of them.
that I am not one of them.
I hope that I am one of them.
You are not the one, Mike.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine are pretty much 15-18 in standard.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in DeMarco this year. I do think that he will get the bulk of the work up front, but Derrick Henry, they didn't draft him to sit him. They didn't draft him where they drafted him to not use him. And if he turns out to be able to do anything, or if DeMarco Murray turns out to show the legs that he showed last year, either of those things happen and all of a sudden the workload gets cut into a little bit. I just don't think the ceiling is super high in an offense that I don't trust, for a head coach I don't trust. Now, I'm not really throwing trust into Matt Jones, but I could see the path for Matt Jones to take over young over old.
And before, it's like, whoa, Mike loves Murray. That's not what I'm saying. Just saying that he could become a value in drafts. So do not reach for Murray by any means. But if he falls to you in a good spot, don't be afraid to take him.
Pete Carroll came out and talked about Jimmy Graham being ready for week one. We'll get into it in the mailbag. There's a question about Jimmy Graham in the mailbag, so I'll save it for that.
Okay.
The Lions camp, couple quick bits of news. Eric Ebron is sitting out of OTAs with an undisclosed injury. Just monitor that. He's one of our guys that we kind of like making a step forward this year, or at least myself and Jason do. I don't know if Mike really does. Jim Caldwell also said Ameer Abdullah was recovering nicely from a shoulder surgery. He needs to get
it happened in January.
Right.
And when did Caldwell turn into John Fox here?
Yeah.
With the injury updates, where it's like, he's got an undisclosed. We don't need to talk about it.
From what I understand about this surgery and the recovery, they expect Abdullah to be ready. His arm should be prepared and ready to fumble again starting in September.
Abdullah's, I don't even understand why he fumbles so much. Have you seen those guns? They're ridiculous.
Hey, that don't matter. AP's a fumble maniac too.
Yeah, well.
All right, let's go. This is an interesting tidbit that Mike threw into the back of the news here. The New Jersey Advanced Media's Matt Lombardo reports number 2 overall pick Carson Wentz, quote, seems to, which is such a great preseason phrase, have a better handle of the playbook than Sammy Biscuits.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's a new playbook for both guys. One guy was coming in expecting, hey,
That's
I'm going
true.
to the NFL. I got to learn something. I'm ready to learn. The other guy pouted for a couple weeks and said, I'm not going to look at your playbook.
Is that what he said?
That's what he said.
Wait, that was a quote?
That was, direct. I just played the audio.
Play it again, would you? Would you play that again?
Yeah, he said, I'm not going to look at the playbook.
Why does he sound like Jim Gaffigan?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's Bradford's lazy. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Right,
Let's talk
about the running backs in Philly. Let's talk about Wendell Smallwood for a second. Reported to be the, quote, key to the running back situation. I'm not sure what it means to be the key of a running back situation, but I do believe somebody has to carry the ball. And we talked about Ryan Mathews on the show. It's him and Smallwood right now, and somebody to be named later.
Yeah, and the reason why I just wanted to mention
unless you believe in Sproles returning,
is because, like we talked about this, I think a couple weeks ago, the Wendell Smallwood hype is going to grow. It is going to become a deafening noise. I feel it will be just shattering windows by the time draft season rolls out.
I believe he is. Oh, go ahead.
I say people are going to reach for Wendell Smallwood instead of taking him as a normal handcuff. Personally, I think that Ryan Mathews is an extremely talented running back, more than capable of being the guy for Doug Peterson. I know that injuries are a concern, so I'm not saying I wouldn't want Smallwood on my team to be a kind of a higher level handcuff, a higher volume handcuff.
Like, would you say a regular handcuff, or is he more of a handcuff?
That's a very good question because I don't know for Smallwood. I think the volume would be there. I'm just not sure if he is ready.
I'm not going to make a prediction on that because I don't believe they go into the season with these two guys.
Which means he's just a handcuff. One of the things that
he's
saw
the same
last
size
year,
as Jamal Charles. He's not.
He's a little
teeny.
smaller than Jamal, but
he's the same height.
He's
5'10". He's the same weight.
I think Wendell Smallwood. He gets a knock for being small. I think a lot because of his name, which is just
unfortunate.
True. But he's. I think he's 5'10",
5'11", 201. 5'11", 201.
That's not bad.
Guess how big Jamal Charles is? 5'11".
And
Jamal Charles looks like
I don't know why they didn't give me his weight
because
as well.
he weighs like 155.
199. So
Yeah.
Wendell Smallwood is the same height and 2 pounds heavier than Jamal Charles. So
you
I'm just
heard it here. Wendell Smallwood is Jamal Charles.
physically. People who want to say that Smallwood's just a scout back, I'm just saying he could take it between the tackles as much as Jamal Charles.
Yeah, I doubt that. But the point here that I wanted to make is that last year there were so many handcuffs that were just the wrong guys. And really over the last few years, we've had situations where it's like, okay, the guy goes down, and so everybody rushes out to get Niall Davis, and it's not even Niall Davis. You know, people rush out to get C.J. Spiller, and it's Tim Hightower. And so when you've got a situation here, now I think the reason that the hype train comes is because there's really nobody else. I mean, if there's only one guy, go ahead and take
it's
that
Ryan
guy.
Matthews' doubt as well, which
Right.
I understand the injury doubt completely.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying Wendell Smallwood is one of these guys that you watch out. Watch out with the hype train gets rolling.
You know, I'm going to go – I have not watched a ton of tape on Wendell Smallwood in a long time. I'm going to go and do that, and I'm going to tweet out my opinion on him because I want to see – I think the opportunity he has is above average, and I like opportunity. I'm not sold on his talent, but I need to take another look.
All right. Well, let's move on.
I'm quite well, thank you. No. Clearly you are not. No rational person would do as you have done. Explain yourself.
It's time.
It's time to break bad.
It's time to explain yourself, Mike. We're starting with you.
Me?
Yeah.
All right.
Of course we are.
I'm going to make you explain yourself. I'm picking one of your players here. I'm looking at our rankings, and we're looking at half-point leagues. This guy is our consensus 41, and that's because of Jason and I yanking him down the rankings. He's 49 for me. He's 53 for Jason.
I did not realize he was that low. I thought I was high on
Don't worry about it. You're okay. You're with good company
No,
here.
I looked at his stats again today just to make
Yeah,
sure
they're
that
terrible.
I liked them, and I liked where I had them.
Exactly. So do I. He's 21. 20. Oh, 21.
I know where we're going here.
This is Torrey Smith.
This is Torrey Smith.
So sing me the song of Torrey Smith, Mike. Sing it hard, sing it long.
All right.
Well, explain yourself.
I am more than willing to explain myself. Here's the deal with Torrey Smith. It is a matter of targets. I am a mathematical man, my friends. And last year, San Francisco had 525 attempts, okay? Torrey Smith got 62 targets from there. Now, the last 2 years, Chip Kelly up in Philadelphia has averaged 616 attempts. That is a difference, my friends, of 91 passes compared to San Francisco.
It's a very big difference.
That's a big target increase if we just do that. Oh, let me throw this part in. Anquan Bolden and Vernon Davis accounted for 141 targets last year. They are gone. That is a raw difference of 232 targets to increase. We're talking they're going to increase by at least 200 targets. Torrey Smith is going to be the number one wide receiver on that team. He will likely be the number one passing option on that team. We've already seen him. We've seen what his talent can do. He's had a double-digit touchdown season. He's had a plus 1,000 yards season. So we know that the ability is there. Now the opportunity will match that. It doesn't matter to me that if it's Blaine Gabbert or Colin Kaepernick throwing the ball, because Chip Kelly teams have never had under 4,000 passing yards. He has taken Nick Foles. He has taken butt fumble Mark Sanchez, and Sanchez didn't have 4,000, but he had half of the 4,000. So it's just the yardage speaks to me that it will be there, and the passing attempts will be there. So I don't see any way that Torrey Smith doesn't produce some serious fantasy value.
So this is a guy who on 425 attempts in San Francisco last year had 33 receptions. It's hard for me, obviously, to jump in on Torrey Smith, but you bring up some very good points. 232 extra targets. What happens if Bolden gets re-signed in San Francisco? Does this change where you have him ranked?
Oh, he would move down, absolutely, if Bolden was there, because Bolden's a possession-type guy. But I would still have Smith probably in that upper 3 range, because I think that he can produce. Chip Kelly values speed, and that's what Torrey Smith has in boatloads. So I think it's there.
Yeah, I have. I think I doubled Torrey Smith's numbers from last year, or close to it. Worked out that way, and that leaves him very, very low because he was so irrelevant last year. I think the reality that he is the guy there, and that offense is going to be more productive at the very least, even if the team is not good. Those two things are true, but I have a hard time when you look at, okay, what he's done at Philly. Well, in Philly, he had Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin and Jordan Mathews. He had weapons that helped him get to those 4,000 yards. I'm not convinced entirely that that means just because he's always had 4,000 that he'll be able, is just capable of producing that.
Is Deshaun Jackson tremendously better than Torrey Smith?
Yeah,
I don't know that he's tremendously better, but the cast that was around him when Deshaun Jackson was there was tremendously
let me ask you
better.
This. Are you concerned with, San Francisco could be one of the worst teams in the league, plays in a division with Seattle, Arizona, and the Rams, who all have good defenses.
Yeah, and that is, I understand the concern there. The concern would be that they are always losing and always passing the ball.
Okay.
Garbage time counts, my friend.
Here's how we're
Jacksonville.
Here's the beautiful thing about Torrey Smith, though, is that people, because of his last year, he's free. You know, he's, as far as what he's going to cost you to draft, Mike's not going to take him as the 21st wide receiver off the board. He's going to look at the ultimate draft kit and see his ADP when he goes to draft and go, oh, I'm just going to grab him at the very end of my draft. And if you're right on his upside, it's a worthy pick.
So here's how we're ending your attempt to explain yourself. I'm going to ask this question, or you're going to ask it to me. Have you made myself or Jason change our ranking? Have you convinced us to make an adjustment to our ranking? Because right now we're at 49 and 51 or 53, I think.
I'd say if you ask me that question, that's not something I could answer.
No, that's the question that we need to ask ourselves. So, Jason, are you going to change your ranking based on that explanation?
I'm going to take a look at the total targets, and I might bump Torrey Smith up just a hair because I think 53 is probably too low. He's still the number one on his team.
And I will say this, compelling argument. I'm not going to change him in my rankings because I went through Torrey Smith very recently.
That's a lose.
That's a lie. All right.
All right, so Andy, let's make you defend yourself here a little bit.
Put the spotlight on him.
We'll put it over to you, and we'll bring up a guy who Mike and I have as the 23rd ranked guy and the 17th ranked guy at quarterback, and you have him up at number 9. You've got him top 10, and that is Matthew Stafford. Explain yourself.
All right, I can do that. Matthew Stafford is very interesting because we've talked about him on this show before. You guys, I believe, did this to me a couple of months ago, pretty much.
Yeah, this is like our weekly explain your Matt Stafford pick.
Right. You at least came at me. It seemed like last week we had moved ourselves to the point where you were both acknowledging all his finer points, but clearly not to the point of moving him up in your rankings. And so that's really what we're talking about here. And the story with Matthew Stafford is that he's not just a good quarterback. He didn't have a down year.
Whoa, he's a good quarterback now.
He's a good fantasy quarterback.
All right.
He's a good fantasy quarterback. Last year, we had all of the horrible ramifications from a terrible start in fantasy. And in reality, I mean, for the Lions. Matthew Stafford had a bad beginning of the year, namely with interceptions. He ended the year with, 32 touchdowns, 4,200 yards, a 67% completion rating, and a 97 passer rating. And this was not Calvin Johnson dominating every target last year. This was Matthew Stafford making adjustments. The second half of the season, once Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator changeover happened, his second half season pace was 38 touchdowns, 4,400 yards, and 4 picks. It's just numbers. It's just numbers. And Stafford, you mix those numbers as opposed to, okay, let's say you look at Blake Bortles. And Bortles had a good season. Well, the track record for Blake Bortles in fantasy is shorter and smaller than Matthew Stafford. And I'm not elevating Matthew Stafford onto a pedestal above all others. I believe what'd you say? He's 9 for me right now?
Yes.
So Matthew Stafford's 9. I'm very comfortable with that. Let me see here. Yeah, 9. Okay, so I have him 1 behind Eli Manning and right ahead of Big Ben and Blake Bortles. So I'm very comfortable with that. And the other thing about it is I like Ebron and Marvin Jones as red zone weapons to fill in for Calvin Johnson. Nobody is Calvin Johnson. But this team's best...
Calvin Johnson is Calvin Johnson.
Okay, you're right.
Thanks, Mike.
But nobody else. Thank you, Mike.
Great analysis.
Good analysis. This team is on Matt Stafford's back. This is not Calvin Johnson's team anymore. He has 2 pass-catching running backs in Ameer Abdullah and Theo Riddick. And so everything is on his shoulders to me. He's 28 years old. The average age of the offense is like 25. He is the leader of the team. And to me, I think you have a vulnerable enough division defensively and that's all to say I think he can be a top 12 quarterback. So that's what I think. I think it's an optimism. I think he has weapons. I think that he has youth on his side, and I think best of all, he's a great value at quarterback late. That's basically my argument for Matt Stafford. So
well, he's definitely a value late. He's being drafted in the mid 20s at quarterback, which means there are plenty of guys that I would probably take him over that are going ahead of him because of how late he is. So the question is, have you swayed us at all? And Mike, what say you?
Well, I just recently moved him up to 17, so I don't know if I can move him any higher than that. I will admit that I have.
Sure you can.
I have grown on Matt Stafford. The problem is I'm still torn now on, was it Jim Bob Cooter or was it the last part of the season that he played Philly, Green Bay, the Rams who had packed it in, the Saints, San Francisco, and Chicago. I mean, that's a perfect storm for you can't point to exactly what the reason for success was, but I'm moving more in the line to want to take a jump in on Matt Stafford this year.
And while you were giving your spiel, Andy, I looked at my rankings, looked at my numbers, and I actually did change the numbers
live
while it was happening. I forgot how his
he
interception.
Moved him down.
Yeah, I changed his interception total, and so he did move from my 23rd ranked quarterback to my 22nd ranked quarterback. So not really. I would say that I'm not sure that qualifies as a win.
I think that qualifies exactly as moving them up.
That's a win.
All right. Hey,
I really hope that someone ends up getting moved down.
So
you have convinced me to move him down.
Even better than convincing you about Matthew Stafford is questioning you on Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Yeah. Mike hates Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Yeah, Mike really does hate ASJ. He doesn't like anybody with what? You said you don't like any players with kind of like 3 names? Is that
No. I'm all about the 3 names, but Seferian-Jenkins.
You're not a fan. I'm clearly splitting
I don't like
the difference.
30-yard games.
Jason has him at 10. Okay, then you don't like tight ends in general. Jason has him at 10. I have him at 16. Mike has him all the way at 22. Back behind many players.
Eat it, Jenkins.
Like Dwayne Allen or Jordan Cameron or Will Tye, Zach Miller. Not a many. ASJ isn't ahead of a lot for Mike. So,
all right. So I will
explain yourself.
I will explain myself on Austin Seferian-Jenkins. The best thing that I like about Austin Seferian-Jenkins is his opportunity. What we saw happen last year with him was a ton of injury. How long was the running joke at this show that he was still not...
He was healthy, but not...
That he was healthy, but not practicing. But, it was
Those
a joke
were good.
because
Those were
he
good times.
wasn't healthy, and you saw that when he got back on the field. Remember how he came out of the gates last year when he was at least healthy for that first week, and he went off on complete monster mode? Last year, in just a few games that he was healthy, I believe he had 4 touchdowns in 7 games. So that would be just from last year on a pace of about a little over 9 touchdowns on the season, which would be good. But you've got Vincent Jackson, a year older, Kenny Bell and Louis Murphy. Look, here's the thing. One of these guys, right, Vincent Jackson, Kenny Bell, Louis Murphy, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, someone is probably going to take a step forward, and I'm going to go with the guy who was picked very highly for a tight end in the NFL draft because he was highly touted, a great prospect, who's also coming into only his 3rd year, right? We say all the time, rookie year for tight ends, just ignore them. They don't do things in their rookie year, and generally they don't do much in their sophomore year, but in his sophomore year on a per-game basis last year, I thought he was okay. So now he's coming into a 3rd year, another year with Jameis Winston in an opportunity that is there. He's a great red zone target. So he represents a huge upside to me. When I look at the guys that are that I'm fine with at tight end who are in the 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 range, I'm looking for someone that I hope can just become a monster. And most of the guys there are going to be okay, and I'll live with them. But Austin Seferian-Jenkins has the chance here to actually put up a great year and become a key red zone cog for Jameis Winston. That's what I like about Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
I don't really have any problem when I look at your ranks and I see, you still have Eric Ebron 2 spots ahead of him at 8. You have Eifert at 9 right now with the injury news. Right now you have ASJ ahead of Delaney Walker, which I think people would
love it.
Would be a little bit.
You love that?
I love that.
Surprised at. But here's what I will say that the most compelling, and I'm not going to move him. That's my official response. I'm not going to move him. But the most compelling part about that argument is what I saw in the field, which is that, Mike Evans is not catching every touchdown. Doug Martin's not running every touchdown. And ASJ is a legitimate end zone threat. Is he Kyle Rudolph or is he something more? That is the question that I have is, Rudolph became, in my mind, famous for those type of games where you'd 2 for 21 and a touchdown. And if you got the touchdown, you were happy. And if you didn't get the touchdown, you released him back to the waiver wire. And so that's the question with ASG. I like the opportunity and the athleticism. Can he stay healthy and will he fulfill his potential? And but I do not disagree with your choice of putting him there. I can see why.
Okay, so Mike, are you moving him up from 22?
I'll take a look, but as of now, I'm not moving him up. I will say, certainly not. You are correct though that the depth behind Jackson and Evans is questionable. I mean, you do have other guys there, but Kenny Bell is coming off a hamstring injury. People have pretty high hopes for him, including myself. Louis Murphy coming off an ACL tear. In Humphreys and Dye, there's not they aren't the most inspiring guys. I don't think they necessarily have to be when you look at a team like the Jets where basically the production was Deckert and Marshall, and I think that can happen for the Buccaneers. I will agree with this. I think Seferian-Jenkins will either be a monster or he's going to be that 30 yards per game. I don't think there's a middle ground for Jenkins. I think it's all or nothing. So as of now, I'm not buying into. So we got a question here for Andy, a guy that Andy is buying into. He is buying the shares like it's sour candies. I don't. Do you like sour candies, Andy?
They're fine.
Okay, wait. I'll switch that. He's buying.
I like sweet candy.
He's
more.
buying them more like they're shares of Werther's Originals.
Oh, good, good. Thank you.
Werther's caramel.
The
candies.
briefs of candy. Werther's Original.
Well, yes, and that is Duke Johnson. Both Jason and I, we like Duke Johnson. We've got him in the early 30s.
RB3 range.
Yeah. Andy, full throttle. all in on Duke Johnson.
Is number 19 in your rankings all in?
It's in pretty.
Or is that
that's
compared to you?
Number 19 is a middle RB2. I mean, that's a guy that you're not drafting to flex. You're drafting to start him week in, week out. So yeah.
Sell me,
us.
Duke Johnson.
All right,
Teach us.
let's travel back in time, gentlemen. Let's go.
How far?
Let's go back to last offseason. Let's go back to a 21-year-old Duke Johnson, because that's what he was back then. He's only 22 right now. But let's go back to when he was 21. This is a guy who the previous coaching staff saw as a 3-down running back. And that's what he was going to be to start the year. Until the hamstring injury that sidelined him.
Oh, that's weird.
And changed the scenario, which I get it. You don't like him because you think he's going to be Andre Ellington. You think he's going to be the injured running back. I'm presuming some health on this 22-year-old. And I think that Hugh Jackson is far and away a different scenario for the running back core in Cleveland. Would we agree with that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he's a
100%.
running back coach.
Because last year, Duke Johnson was essentially the offense was a train on the job type of situation. The previous offensive coordinator was basically a first-year offensive coordinator. Duke Johnson only got 9 carries 2 times. So we don't really know the between the tackles numbers for him because, yeah, he averaged 3.6. That's not great, but he barely got any opportunities being a 3-down back. But take that away. He had 61 receptions as a rookie, and he made his mark in the passing game. Now he has Hugh Jackson, somebody who's had great effect on running backs. Duke has the confidence of Jackson. Jackson said he believed, quote, the talent was extreme when he's talking about Duke Johnson. And last year, guys, here's the problem I have with your rankings. And this is what will convince you both to change it. He was the 24th running back last year. You both have him in the 30s. He finished as the 24th highest scoring fantasy running back last year.
In what format? He's such a PPR guy. Was that PPR or was that standard?
I'll vet that for you. But you're talking about a guy who, in that range, you both have him regressing. I don't see regression for Duke Johnson at 22, year 2. Chance for 3 downs if Isaiah Crowell doesn't pan out. Didn't spend a high draft pick in Cleveland on more running backs. I'm not drinking Kool-Aid on him. He's number 19. And I wouldn't take him super high. And maybe I think he's going to be one of those guys that in some drafts, super value. In other drafts, somebody's drinking the Kool-Aid and he's going in the 3rd round. But that's the argument. Did you pull up any?
He was 34th in standard.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
In standard league.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what? Okay. Yeah, you're taking Duke Johnson, you're throwing him into a full standard, and you're trying to.
No.
Why didn't you give me a half or full?
Here, I'll give you.
Ridiculous.
I'll give you full.
I'm calling horrible shenanigans on that.
In full point PPR, where he is much more valuable, he was 23rd.
Okay. All right. So in half, he was right in that 28 range. I have him at 19. You have him at 31 or something like that. That's my argument for Duke Johnson. Opportunity plus talent, improved coaching staff. I don't see regression. I think 19's right. I'm not projecting 15, 14, 13, getting into the top Danny Woodhead range. 19, I feel great.
The reason, and I will say this, I don't hate Duke Johnson.
In TD-only leagues.
I don't.
He's 75th.
Well, yeah, he only scored twice last year. He'd be terrible in those leagues. I don't hate Duke Johnson at all. But he had 61 receptions, like you said. That's more than Giovanni Bernard has ever had in his entire career. So
Great point.
Do I see regression coming for Duke Johnson with Hugh Jackson bringing his offense? Very, very possible, especially in the reception category. I think that he could increase his
because
workload.
they have so many other pass catchers.
That's fair, but they didn't have him last year either.
A lot of it's gonna come down to the attempts.
They had Brian Hartline. I take it back.
It's gonna come down to the attempts that they drop back to throw, because we've seen Hugh Jackson go to teams and the amount of times that they throw the ball dip a lot, and then the amount of times they run the ball go up. He's also spoke super highly of Isaiah Crowell, not just Duke Johnson. He has gushed over Crowell. So the 3-down back thing I don't see at all. But I do think that I probably need to bump Duke Johnson up a little bit in my PPR rankings, which I think in PPR he should be an RB2. I do buy that. And I have him right now, I believe, outside of that. I've got him Where is he at? 27. That's too low. So I need to bump Duke Johnson up a little bit in PPR formats.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah.
You don't like Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
No, I do not.
You've got him 22nd, but yet at number 12.
Wait. Mike didn't even get to respond to.
Whether he was going to bump him
to
up?
Duke Johnson.
I thought he did.
No, he didn't.
I'm taking a look at my stats from. I've got him at 60 catches. So I just feel stronger about the other guys who are ahead of him. I have him at 29 in PPR. So I mean he's right
PPR,
on he's right on the edge there.
Third most catches.
And I will say this. If I draft Duke Johnson and he goes on a tear for 4 or 5 weeks, I will be selling high because Duke Johnson's body will fail him and Duke Johnson will get hurt.
He had the knock coming out of college. He was always just a little nicked up and banged up, and he was a little bit last year.
So I guess maybe you're like, well, I don't want to predict an injury, but Duke Johnson just doesn't strike me with all of his past injury history as someone who can do it for an extended period of time. If he actually is going to get 3 down work.
See, I tried to keep him from having to say that to you, Andy, and go on to his next player, but you wanted him to pour that salt, right?
It is my job to keep us on,
Yeah,
I needed to hear.
We got to stay honest. All right, speaking of staying honest, a tight end that you have is a tight end number 1 who we are not even sure is the tight end number 1 on his team in the National Football League, is Will Tye. Explain yourself.
The Tie fighter, Will Tye. Look,
How much of this rating is because you want the nickname to be frequently used on the show?
at least 75%.
Okay, good.
No, but here's the deal about Will Tye. He came up from the practice squad last year at the beginning of October. In his second game, Will Tye was an undrafted free agent. In his second game in the NFL, he went 4 for 48. Not bad, but not great, but that is not bad for the second performance of your career as an undrafted tight end. And then from weeks 10 through 17, he was averaging over 6 targets a game. He scored in 3 of the final 4 weeks. And in that time period, he was the number 9 scoring tight end in both standard and PPR. The reports out of New York currently have Will Tye as the favorite to be the tight end for the Giants. I am not concerned about Larry Donnell. Larry Donnell, as we talked about, looks like a high school athlete who's not used to his big body yet. He's gotten bigger and stronger, but he doesn't know exactly what to do with it. Will Tye is a guy who can be dominant, and we've seen how much Eli Manning likes to throw to the tight end, especially in the end zone. Like the aforementioned Larry Donnell, we all saw him drop that 3 TD game in prime time. I think Will Tye can do that. He's not going to blow you away every single week with Gronkowski-level numbers, not at all. But I think he can be very solid, and I think he will do enough to be a tight end 1 by the end of the year.
I liked Will Tye a lot coming into this offseason because of what I saw the last half of the year. I will say this. I am not moving him up in my rankings, and the reason why is because during that stretch that we saw him do well, Larry Donnell was not there. He was gone, so Will Tye was it, and so he averaged 6 targets a game. Well, even if Will Tye is the starter, he's not the only guy anymore, so I don't think he's going to keep up that great pace he had for a very few short games when he was the only guy and still only finished 9th in that stretch. So I think that where I've got him at, I believe I'm around 17 or so, is fine because he's going to at the very least be splitting with Donnell. That's my take. Andy, what say you?
Well, I had Donnell high. I had him high.
Tye?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had Tye up high in the
sky. Eating pie.
And I moved him down simply to wait and see how it shakes out. I believe it's 50-50 that Larry Donnell makes the team.
Ooh.
I think there's a good chance that he doesn't.
So if Donnell does not make the team,
then Will Tye will climb back up. I don't know if it gets to 12, but it'll be in the 13-14 range.
He'll climb up my rankings as well.
Yeah,
if
Donnell
wouldn't make the team, absolutely.
Yeah, I like the offense. I like Eli Manning. I like what he does in the red zone with the tight end. It's just a matter. It's hard for me right now. 12 is just too high. I think it'll be too high even if Donnell was gone because 9 over the last 6 games. I think 13, 14 is probably as high as I'll bring him. But mine's more of a hold. Mine's more of a hold on a second. So
and it was the last 7.
okay, last 7 games. I thought you said the last 6.
Weeks 10 through 17.
Oh yeah, math. All right, good. All right, let's move on. Last guy here. I do want to get into the mailbag. We want to answer some listener questions. And as far as I'm concerned, we can just skip this guy altogether. But we're going to make Jason explain himself. Although the sad reality is that most people would probably make me and Mike explain ourselves. So Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket himself, is this you having him high or is this us having him low?
Where do you guys have him? I can tell you right now, Andy Dalton is the 14th quarterback taken off the board in average draft positions.
Oh, okay.
So I believe I do have him higher than that.
So we have Andy Dalton at 19 and 13.
Yeah, I have him 13.
So this is not Mike against Jason at all.
This is me against you, Andy.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can convince you.
Convince me to bring Andy Dalton up.
I will convince you
Which
to bring
I think
Andy
you already
Dalton
did
up.
when I had Andy Dalton at like number 24 earlier, and you convinced me to bring him up.
I'm
But
gonna
go ahead and
convince
do it
you to
again.
Bring him up again. I looked at his numbers today. I moved him down a little bit because of the Tyler Eifert news, and I think where he's landing at spot 12 is great. We have to remember that he has been a successful fantasy quarterback on a season.
Have.
In a 6-point league, he finished as the number 3 back in 2013. Now, let me remind you what happened. Last year, he was on pace. I think he was the number 4 quarterback before he went down in his 13th game right off in the beginning and then was out for the rest of the year with that injury. In 2014, Hugh Jackson took over. Now, he was the running back coach, right? And so what happened was we were coming off Andy Dalton being this great fantasy quarterback, was the number 3 guy, threw over 30 touchdowns, threw over 4,000 yards, was looking great, young and up and coming. And so you go, well, but then he stunk the next year. But he didn't really stink. The Bengals just stopped throwing the ball, and they had over 100. You just talked about the 90, the big number of 90
plus 90 targets.
Plus 90 targets that changed. Over 100 less passes the next year when the running back coach took over the offensive coordinator role. Go figure.
They also had
ran
no
the ball
targets.
more.
AJ Green was beat up almost that whole year, even though he was still okay. And there was Eifert went down immediately. There was injuries all over the Bengals pass catching unit.
And so we come back to 2014. It starts to level out a bit more, but they were still run heavy. And yet even then, when he had the weapons, Andy Dalton was on fire and was that number 4 quarterback. Fast forward to this year, and Hugh Jackson is out. Now, you could make the argument, well, that just hurts the offense. I'm going to make the argument that I don't care whether it hurts the offense. I care how it impacts the running and the passing game, and the passing attempts should go up. Guess who took over the offensive coordinator role? Oh, the quarterback coach.
I thought you were going to say the quarterback.
But
Andy Dalton's the new offensive coordinator.
Hey, guys, we're going to pass it again.
Yeah,
Right.
but the quarterback coach, Ken Zampese, took over. And so he's coming in to now show his stuff. And I see them airing the ball out just a little bit more than they did the last 2 years where they were solely focused on the running game. And I think Andy Dalton is talented enough to capitalize on that. I love AJ Green this year. I moved Andy Dalton down a little bit because he might miss Tyler Eifert for a couple of games, but I like Tyler Boyd, who they brought in. And I believe there's this guy there, Gio Bernard, that you keep talking about as well, who's great as a pass-catching back.
Yeah, and I looked it up, and you were correct. From weeks 1 to 12, Andy Dalton was, in fact, the fourth highest scoring
he's
quarterback.
finished a year at 3 before, too.
Yeah.
So you're asking me the question?
So I'm asking you, do you think he should be back at the 17th, or where do you have him?
I have him at 19.
That's the 19th quarterback.
So barely like a middle quarterback too.
Yeah, he'll come up.
All right, we did it!
We did it, America.
He'll come up ahead of Tyrod Taylor, for sure.
Okay.
I'm looking at my rankings right now, and I'm saying he'll come up ahead of Tyrod Taylor, and that might be it.
Stat him out, see what happens. I'll bet he jumps up. He'll probably be number 3. That's my guess.
Here's what I do think. I think that the arguments for Andy Dalton aren't very different from the arguments that I made for Matthew Stafford. They both have a pedigree where they've performed well and bad in fantasy football, where they've thrown interceptions and haven't, where they have a big weapon and they don't, where they've dealt with some of those things. Right now I have
Well, Dalton still has his big weapon.
yeah, he has one of them. He's got to hurt Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, but he's got Green.
Right. He does. Yeah. And, you're very high on Golden Tate.
I wouldn't say extremely high, but yeah, I like Tate a lot. I think 100-plus catches is coming.
So, you be quiet for a second.
You were asking me about Tate.
What I'm trying to do here is get a good old-fashioned water bet between Dalton and Matt Stafford with Jason.
Oh.
Because we have for you not to do this would be
why
just
would I
intellectually insulting.
Yes.
Because
I know that's a sign.
Because you have Stafford at 22 and Dalton at 12. I have Stafford at 9 and Dalton at 19.
We can't both be right. There can only be one. It's Highlander.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Water bet.
The truth is, with all of these explain yourself things, is we do this for a living. None of these arguments are really surprising us. We have chosen prior to this to disagree on these guys, and this is what I like. One of the things I like about this show is the fact that we aren't making your draft picks for the Footclan. The Footclan listen to us for info, and then you take that out, and you guys make the decision based on just the knowledge. We're just trying to make the game more fun and players more smarter. That's it.
Well, if we have disagreements, changes in our rankings that are big disparities, because that's what we did when we looked at the rankings. We said, oh, we're kind of have a disparity here. Let's talk about this on the show. That means there are some differing opinions out there as well.
Yep. With
Dalton and Stafford and ASJ and some of these guys. So there's your arguments. There's always narratives to be written. We do this for a living, like Jason said, and we looked at the numbers, and this is where we ended up. So hopefully those helped you out. We're going to jump into the mailbag, answer a few listener questions right now.
Mailbag.
Yeah.
All right.
Whoa, wasn't sure it was going to come out.
That's right. You're dealing with the voice thing. You took care of business. Good luck on the primal scream today on show after the show.
Oh, you're going to get doom metal.
Do we need Jason to fill in?
We might need that.
Uh-oh.
Or you're going to get Nordic metal.
I'll fill in.
It's a very thoughtful sound right there. I wanted to start meditating.
Everyone, please go subscribe on YouTube for the show after the show.
This is Jason's new mission.
My new mission is
everybody who listens to the show on the podcast.
I'll just say it.
Subscribes
I'll
on
just
the
say the goal.
YouTube.
I want 100,000 YouTube subscribers. That's what I want. Make it happen, FootClan.
You put it out there.
And we're at what? 14,000?
14,000.
All right, so let's
put it out
We
there.
got a ways
little
to go.
ways to go.
But FootClan can move mountains.
That's right, and we do have the show after the show after today, talking some Game of Thrones recap. All right, so if you have a question for the show, a fantasy question, you can send it in. Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click that Submit a Question button. You can also dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. I had fun explaining myself with Duke Johnson. That was one of those guys, the deeper I dug, the more I felt comfortable with my pick. So
that's always the best, is if you feel challenged and you dig in and you feel even more confident. It's also good too, if you're challenged, you dig in, you say, oh, maybe I do need to change this, but there's always a warm fuzzy feeling when you start that confidence to build.
Yeah, sometimes you start to write your own argument and you go, ooh.
I can't back this up.
I think I had some guys today when I was modifying my rankings where I was like, yeah, he needs to move. Like Zach Ertz. All right, I'll just publicly say that. You can go look right now. Zach Ertz finally moved down. I loved being in the Zach Ertz camp. I can't do it anymore with Carson Wentz potentially starting in the tumult it would be stupid. It just would be stupid. So he moved down. All right, let's go to a voicemail question, and I believe this caller could help fill in for you if you needed help with your voice,
Really?
Mike. Yeah, I think so. Or not.
Definitely not.
Hey guys, it's T-Balls. I was wondering if you could discuss the value of Tyrod Taylor in a 2-quarterback league. I feel like he's got some sleeper potential, but I was just curious, where you guys had him ranked and what you think his ceiling and floor is this year. Appreciate it. See ya.
Tyrod Taylor, somebody we probably haven't talked about enough. I know Jason is a pretty big Tyrod Taylor fan.
I am, and it's
I'm
funny.
a very hesitant Tyrod Taylor fan.
When you said, well, I'll definitely move him up above Tyrod Taylor.
You were like, no, don't do that.
My thought was like, wait, why definitely above Tyrod Taylor? Tyrod Taylor's great.
Let's talk about explain yourself.
I know, explain yourself.
All right, so Tyrod Taylor, 2 quarterback leagues. I love it. Upside, value later in the draft than some of these other guys. I wouldn't want to pair him with another high-risk quarterback myself. I'd want to have somebody that's kind of a steady type of quarterback. And
you know what's funny is I was listening to that banter go on, and Jason loves Tyrod Taylor. Jason is the lowest on Tyrod Taylor.
Well, then I need to bump him up because I have not checked into how I have him statted in a while. But what I have looked into is just the Buffalo Bills offense, what I think they can become, what Tyrod Taylor did last year. So I just haven't updated his stats. I'll make sure I do that.
I'm
before
sure it's
the show
not by
comes out.
much.
No, just by a couple.
I think
spots.
I have Tyrod at 17 right now.
You do.
But any other thoughts on Tyrod as a value in 2 quarterback leagues?
Spectacular. I think if you can get one of the a more known weekly starter, I'm not saying go out and you have to get Rodgers or Cam Newton. And
Ryan Fitzpatrick or Tyrod Taylor right now, if he's back. If
he's
Fitzpatrick's
back,
yeah.
I would go
Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
I'll take Fitzpatrick because I know Fitzpatrick is going to play 16.
Right.
Or I feel confident. I'm pretty confident.
14 and a half, but yeah, no.
I think Taylor will not play a full season, even though I really like him. I think he's a great later round target
high
for
upside, yeah, because
huge upside.
When you look at the late round guys, normally there's not as many high upside guys that can go out there and put a 35-point game up. But Tyrod Taylor can do that with your legs. And Andy, I think you bring up a great point of pairing him with a guy that is safe. If you want to go and target kind of that riskier late pick, then grab a Russell Wilson, a guy that's consistent and good.
Yeah, not a low or not a really low floor. Right. Ross in Humboldt. I'm in a 16-team standard league. This year I'm going to try 0 RB in the first few rounds. Gio Bernard, Matt Jones, and Duke Johnson, who has the lowest floor on their value?
Standard scoring.
Who's the safest player, basically?
Can I just say, Ross, how dare you bring up Duke Johnson's name in a standard league?
Yeah, he was only the 34th.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So,
I can't believe you did that to me, too.
Sorry.
Trying to ruin me. This was supposed to be me explaining myself and you getting convinced.
Well, it said it was Jason burying you.
He was burying me. In a standard league, the pass-catching running back did very poorly.
All right, well, this is a standard league. Ross wants to know which one of these 3 guys, Gio Bernard, a pass-catching back who's also very involved in the run game, Matt Jones, who is pretty much the show for Washington until Arian Foster or someone else signs there, or Duke Johnson, the pass-catching back. I'm curious to see what Andy says on this show.
I think Matt Jones is the safest of these. If it was a half or full, Duke's by far the safest to me. But I think in a full standard league, 16-team league, I think Matt Jones is safer. And I have Matt Jones rated ahead of Duke Johnson in half-point leagues, 17 and 19, so it only makes sense to go with Matt
would
Jones.
say that Matt Jones of this group has the highest ceiling, but also the lowest floor.
The lowest floor?
Mm-hmm.
Why would that be?
I think he's got the highest floor and the
Because
highest
of the
ceiling.
pass catching of the other 2 guys?
Yeah, well, and I think that Matt Jones could fail miserably. I think that Jones could come out, fumble 2 or 3 times real early. I know Jason's shaking his head because you love Matt Jones.
No, it's not because of that. It's because of last year's Latavius Murray. Look, Murray came out and he had bad games, and he came out and he fumbled,
It
and
doesn't
he got
matter.
benched
You
a couple
can't-
of times.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
you have to run the ball at some point, and he was the only guy there. That's what Matt Jones is this year. So I agree. If Arian Foster comes to town, sorry, don't draft Matt Jones the way we're
That's
giving
what
you
I'm
advice.
saying. Is
But
they were already
otherwise-
looking at Foster.
Well, but right now you have to answer the question.
Right, and right now, Matt Jones has the highest floor and the highest ceiling to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if you answer it like Mike, you'll say, if Arian Foster signs with either the Browns or the Redskins,
I'm just saying that of anyone, like there are still variables left for Matt Jones. Like the way that I feel about now I've lost my train of thought with the running back where Smallwood. How
Sure.
you think someone else is coming to Philly, I think someone else is coming into Washington. So that's why I think that he has the lowest floor.
Here's my here's my guess. Because I agree, someone else has to come into Washington. I think it's going to be someone like Pierre Thomas.
Just a vet.
And if that happens, then I see Matt Jones the same as I'm describing him.
All right, another voicemail question.
Hey guys, finally am giving in. Had to give you guys a call, ask a quick question. I guess my question is with you guys talking about the strategy so much about going with wide receivers so much earlier, are you guys okay with getting 2 running backs, like 2 RB2s for your 2 RB1 and your RB2? So I've done this in past years, and I just keep getting screwed over every single year. I just wanted to know your guys' thoughts on that. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the show. Bye.
I need to speak on this first. I think, for me, I'm not okay with that.
You're not okay taking 2
I'm
running
not
backs?
okay having 2 running back 2s. I'm still.
No, I think what he's saying is going RB.
No, I think Andy's right. I
Is
think
he?
what he's saying is,
Okay.
are you okay if you end up with just 2 RB2s because you went wide receiver early? Are you okay with
Either
that?
way, I can answer the question the same way.
Okay.
I mean, I was going to basically say I'm still of the opinion. I still make the same argument I made last offseason that position scarcity exists for the running back versus the wide receiver position. I'd rather be taking running backs early. That's what I'm going to do on my teams this year. I think what we've talked about a lot this summer is the viability of a wide receiver first draft. It is there. The viability is there. You have upper echelon names in Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, and Odell Beckham Jr., probably Des Bryant, that if you draft them, you will get production from them, and you will get high-level production. Last year, the very high-level running backs didn't produce at the level we hoped. It left a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and I think that's why it's been brought up so often. Now, Jason's also talked about this as well, and I'll let him talk about it now. All I wanted to get out was that we are not opposed to running back early. We did not change to a 0 RB strategy for the show. I'm still a running back first guy due to position scarcity. But Jason also sees, I think, the value of some of these later pass catching backs, like everybody but Duke Johnson. All right, Jason?
Yeah, for me, it's I have always been a running back guy. You have to have it because of the position scarcity argument. It is real and it matters, and I would prefer to have a really good running back. I want one of the top running backs, and in most of my drafts, I have a feeling I will end up with one. That being said, this year is very different than the last few years. If you go do this, if you want to see a visual representation, go to fantasyfootballcalculator.com and go to their ADP list. And they've got all the years of history, and click back on 2014 and 2013 and 2012. And what you see is it was dominated by running backs early. And in your league, running backs went early. And so position scarcity got even scarier because there were no running backs of any value left. But now it's flipped. Now it's basically 50-50. And in a couple of rounds, when I look at the 2016 list, and if I'm going to say, okay, so I take my first 2 picks, my first 2 rounds, let me look at who's available in the 3rd and 4th round. I kind of like the running backs more than I like the wide receivers that are available there, just because of how many are taken early. I would rather have Carlos Hyde or Matt Jones than I would Randall Cobb or Doug Baldwin when I look at it. So that's the argument for me, is just it's kind of because I don't usually do this, but I feel like I have to do it because everybody's doing it, But from a logical standpoint that says I now can get running backs later. And so I think one valuable spot to be in right now is to actually be near the end of the first round, because I like that spot. At the end of the first round, you can actually get one of the best running backs available and still get one of the best wide receivers. That's how I would prefer to start my draft.
Yeah, I would too. That's where I'd like to be as well, based on how things are going with this year's ADP. I'd love to be 7, 8, 9, 10 in a draft and be able to take one of the upper echelon running backs at that value. It's only going to make it easier for me to take, I think, a viable wide receiver later on.
And the way the draft looks for me at the very beginning right now is I feel like Julio, Beckham, and Antonio Brown are their own tier. They are the S tier of this draft for me. But after that, I fall in line of the string of running backs that I want. You're looking at, Bell, David Johnson, Gurley, Peterson. Becomes this huge list of guys that I would rather take over that second tier of wide receivers. So unless I'm in the top, top 4, so where I'm going to get one of the big 3 wide receivers, I'm still probably taking a running back in the first round.
All right, last question for the show today. Travis in Sioux Falls, which mid-round wide receiver do you think has the best chance of ending the year as a top 5 scorer in standard fantasy points? Obviously, this is a difficult question, right? A mid-round guy you think could be top 5. I think you're aiming very, very high with those guys. You know, we have some sleepers in the Ultimate Draft Kit online that we're talking about, but 2 names came to mind for me. Do you guys have anybody that are jumping out as
a middle round? I'll have to pull up an ADP here. A middle round guy that could finish.
Just has the potential to. There are middle round guys that have no potential to
I've
do
got
that.
a couple of guys.
All right, you guys go ahead. I'll find someone.
Well, Jason's guy, Doug Baldwin, is obviously a middle round guy that could end up there because he ended the year last year on a tear that, you know, even if he didn't sustain that exact touchdown number, he could end up there. He's a guy that could. He's got a great quarterback, a good offense.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy that I'd mention is Kevin White.
That's funny. How he was on
Was
my
he
mind.
one of your ones?
He was. Yes, he was one of the 3 guys that kind of came to mind.
And that is more me saying I don't think all things being equal he's going to end up top 5. But if Alshon Jeffrey was to get hurt, he has the athletic ability, the quarterback, the offense, the talent to be a top 5 guy if he had the number 1 role in Chicago. So those are 2 guys that jump out to me. Is there anybody to you? It's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Things would have to break in a certain direction clearly for this, but I'm going to throw out Dante Moncrief. The Colts are a very pass-heavy team. Their running back situation, as we know, is not the most desirable.
Not the youngest, we'll say.
Speaking for an NFL team.
It's gorgeous.
Well
like
done.
that.
But in T.Y. Hilton, I like him a lot. I'm rising on him, but I'm just saying, if the right circumstances happen, Moncrief has the talent, and that's the kind of team with Andrew Luck who could come out and throw 40 touchdowns again, that he could end up as top 5.
I like it.
The guys I would throw out would be Josh Gordon. It's still going very late.
Fair.
Believe.
But I'm just saying, you know, if he ends up not suspended, he's got the talent and he's going very late. And I don't know that this guy is middle round enough because he's like back of the 4th right now. But Golden Tate, he's going to have the opportunity, and if he ends up as the red zone guy, he could possibly be there.
I'll throw one more name out there. Any chance Laquan Treadwell could be that?
No.
Okay.
Only because of the offense. I just don't think that the Vikings throw the ball enough to utilize him in even a Dez Bryant efficient touchdown type of role.
All right, that is it for today's show. We got Jake Seeley coming on for our Thursday show.
Yes.
That's the All In Kid, Fantasy Sports Network. We talked about it last week. He bumped him to Thursday. Oh, he bumped us to Thursday. Is that what happened?
Yeah. We did nothing.
We need to bump him back, man.
Yeah.
Jake Seeley, 2018. He's coming on the show. No, we got him on Thursday, and we'll have some more good stuff for you. Also, just a reminder, if you want to help support the show, head over to podcastawards.com. We're giving away for those that go and vote, just vote, screenshot that you voted for us in the People's Choice and in the Sports and Rec section.
Screenshot your verified screen. When you click on that
when you click the email, it'll say your vote has been verified.
Yeah, and you can do that every day. Support the show. Help us get that People's Choice in Sports and Recreation podcast award. And then everybody who screenshots those and hashtags FootclanVote on Twitter, we're going to take all of those. We're going to put them into a big pot. We're going to pull out a bunch of rewards, including a signed Le'Veon Bell jersey. We're giving away some stickers, giving away some gear. And we're also going to be giving away a Listener League spot for 2016. And so we appreciate your support. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's been truly humbling and overwhelming.
Let's take it home, FootClan.
But we want that you got all them hashtag FootClan titles. We want one too. So come and support us. We appreciate it.
This would be hashtag Ultimate FootClan title.
That's a long hashtag, but I can dig it, man.
I'll make it longer.
I can dig it. So thanks for listening. Check out our community. JoinTheFoot.com. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll be 3 times a week starting in July.
Oh, my goodness.
Show after the show on YouTube!
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.